Welcome to Shopify Experiences, a media web podcast. So we have some guests from some old guests from OutSystems that work in the past in OutSystems, but we never have someone that is currently in OutSystems. And what a better guest is Miguel Baltazar, VP of Developers. Welcome, Miguel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So Miguel, you are in OutSystems almost from the beginning of the company.
Yes, since June 2003. Exactly. So
yeah, almost since the beginning. What make you choose OutSystems to make these 20? You already have 20 plus years there.
Well, I guess there are two questions in that. The first one is what made me choose OutSystems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is a very interesting question because I was, as we were talking before, I am a computer science major, and I graduated with specialization in computational systems. So we're talking about lower level hardware, drivers, and all of that. And when I finished my college degree, I actually decided I was not ready for the workforce yet. And so I enrolled into a program that took me to Japan for a year. And it was really cool because I got to work on something that would have been hard here in Portugal, which is actually designing hardware, creating drivers. So back then it was the Cassiopeias with the keyboard. And I was working for OK Electric, which here is mostly printers and other stuff, but then in Japan they do a lot of things. And one thing they were doing was actually a small PDA without buttons. This was 1997, so back then there were no iPhones, there were no smartphones, so a PDA without buttons was something incredibly innovative. And we got to design the hardware, I got to do a lot of the drivers for it. And I think one of the biggest outcomes of that is that I realized that I was not a hardware engineer. I was not a very good coder. And so I very quickly understood that the thing I liked about computer science was the ability to deliver the business solutions, to be able to deliver value to the users. And when I came back in 1998, actually, Paulo Rosado back then had a different startup. It was called Intervento, in which I worked with a lot of great people like Lúcio Ferrão and João Rodrigues, and actually Suzette Henriques too. And so he actually gave me my first job after I came back from Japan. And then, proceedings throughout the years through 2001, we worked, Intervento got acquired by Altitude Software. Altitude, that was like the big bubble burst and all of that. And so in 2003, Paulo actually invited me to join him again at OutSystems. To fulfill, of course, what his vision was, which is to have a software that allows the business, right, to build their own applications. Back then, we were doing SMS and mobile applications mostly. The web was just a distraction to build back offices. And when I saw the visual capabilities of the platform, when I saw back then already the one-click publish, which would take your app that you visually designed and put it out there, right? So the name OutSystems comes from systems that are not running in your computer, they're running out there. In this case, in the data centers of the companies. But if there was a cloud, it would have been Cloud Systems and not OutSystems.
Probably the name.
If the name existed already back then. And so that capability really, touched that area of me that says, technology doesn't have to be complex to be good, right? It just needs to simplify the certain things, the most important things, and then leave room for you to do the complex parts when you need. And that has always been the guiding principle of OutSystems. So when Paulo actually talked to me and showed me what they were doing, Rodrigo Coutinho, who's working with me right now, is also a co-founder at OutSystems. He was the one that actually demoed the system to me back then. And I was sold. I said, this is definitely, the way that technology needs to go in order to be accessible for everybody. Now, the rest of the question is what made me stay in OutSystems for 23 years almost. It has been, I think, the number one reason has been the product. The product is really good. And I've known a lot of people that have left OutSystems and went to work for other companies. And they talk to me and they say, hey, you have no idea how lucky you are to be selling something that works. Because a lot of times when you work for software companies, you're selling a little bit of vaporware, or you're selling only half of the truth, and then when you finally buy it, you figure out the other half.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sell OutSystems because it's a big transformation inside of the company. There's a lot of objections, and people like to do the things they usually do, so changing is hard. But once customers buy, the value is obvious, right? It's like, more and more, especially during those first years, it was a little bit like bringing a machine gun to a knife fight, right? We were already looking for second and third projects, and the people that were doing normal stuff were still stuck in the beginning of the first one. So it was really great to have a product that whenever you sold it, the customer would immediately see value and want to do more. So that is really reinvigorating. I think the second reason why I stayed with OutSystems this long has been the people. The people at OutSystems have been truly amazing. It's a culture of high performance, a culture where there's always people that are better than you so that you can learn stuff from them. And as the company evolved, right, and you say, oh, you've worked for the same company for 23 years, but I've effectively worked at least for 5 different companies over this time, right? As we went from, being a startup to then scaling up a little bit and starting our international expansion to then actually expanding all the way to Asia and to South America and all those other places, going from that point of like 100 million to 300 million. That was really hard because the processes all started broken. The company was now too big to be able to carry their own weight, so structures need to be built. So all of that evolution all the way to the 500 million now and the objective of getting to 1 billion in 3 years, that really changes the way the company works. And so effectively, I can count very clearly 5 companies in this process. And that is really lucky because not everybody is able to come in as employee number 18 and then be and watch the company grow all the way to where it is today. And touching, I think there's a third thing, which is the amount of lives that are touched by the things that we do, right? Not just in the people that use our applications, which is a lot. We're talking about, hundreds of millions of people using the applications, but also the people that make their careers in OutSystems. And this is one of the great things about being where I am today as VP of Developers, is that I get to talk with all these people that have decided that OutSystems is what feeds their children, right? And they get really angry when OutSystems does something that they believe is wrong, and they're really passionate about it, and then tell me about it. They close me in a room, and
it's really their life.
Yes, exactly. It's like, this is my life. Life. I need to. I want OutSystems to be successful so that I can be successful, and that is really cool. This is, I think, one of the biggest and greatest characteristics of the OutSystems community is that it effectively, it's made of passionate people. They're people that really believe, as I do, that the objective of technology is to produce business value. The objective of technology is not technology itself, is to deliver the value. And OutSystems is one of the best products that I know in the market that allows you to do that. Wow, that's a long answer. I'm sorry.
Completely. No, you already answered to maybe one or other questions that I might have. But I really understand, and is, as you were saying, like 20 years in OutSystems is not 20 boring years.
No, absolutely not.
Like the company changed and grow so much during that time that the company itself reinvent itself during the way.
That is true.
The technology also changed.
Yes.
In general in the market in 2020 maybe the mobile development was starting and now is much more common, but the cloud became more
Yes, and even before that, I mean, the cloud was before, at least moving OutSystems to the cloud. But even when I lived in the US and I was employee number 1 in the US,
okay.
for our expansion. I was assigned to the only customer we had in the US, which was a biotech. That Paulo was able to sell while he was doing a master's in Stanford. And from that one customer in 2006, we went to almost 50 customers. In 2014, when I came back with really good references, like Safeway is a big supermarket company. We had Wells Fargo, which is a huge bank, Fidelity Investment, Charles River Labs. So there was a lot of really good reference customer, which then were the base of our expansion in the US. But I was saying that one of the first customers we had in the US was a company called Travel Zoo. And they did flight search, a little bit like what Kayak does.
Okay.
And back then, OutSystems was still traditional web, right? So we had, and we started introducing responsive. So responsive was something that appeared. The JavaScript frameworks back there, it was Angular and all of that. And the product was not ready for it. And so it was us on that project that actually pushed and say, hey, this is the future, this is what we need to be. Yeah. And then ultimately we standardized on React. But it was a lot of times the field and the professional services where I was that kind of drove this forward. I'll give you another example. We worked with the US Army also during that time. And one of the things they wanted was the ability to publish applications. So the same way you can do a one-click publish to development, they wanted to be able to do a one-click publish from development to QA and QA to production.
Okay.
And so what now is known as Lifetime in 2011 was also the result of our project with the US Army, in which we created kind of the one-click publish for solutions that validated all the dependencies and moved stuff from the multiple stages. So a lot of the innovations driven in the product actually came from real-life technology, as you said, that evolved over the years. And OutSystems, the philosophy has always been take the 20% that make 80% of the functionality, make it really simple so that anybody can build it, and then leave the door or the window open for you to go and do the rest 80% that is needed for the fine-tuning. So this philosophy is what has always driven OutSystems, all the way from the SMS first applications, then the web, then the reactive, then the mobile, then the cloud, now AI, right? So all of that is always been an OutSystems developer can be a full stack developer, and also be a mobile developer, and also be an AI developer. So all of these things are the power of the OutSystems developer, because we're not there to be the best React developer we can be. We're there to provide the value that React and cloud and mobile and AI can provide to the business.
Completely. Yeah, you mentioned it was funny because I remember my first project was actually when the responsive was coming, was to make a website. But then the platforms keep evolving. Like before there was but then it appeared Silk, then OutSystems UI, then now we have the mobile UI that is
the new mobile UI. Yes, exactly. That one has been actually a couple of years in the works. It's been what I think. We all talk about AI now, but that one has been really one of the hardest things that we've ever tried to simplify, because it's really hard. And we actually purchased Ionic in the process of trying to build it. And we want to make sure that we're able to get those 20% down. We are in early adopters program right now, limited availability. But from what I see, the power is still, it's a lot better. It's still a little bit complex, so I think we're going to have to iterate a couple of times. As you said, we did also on the React. You have to iterate a couple of times to get it like fully to the 20% simplicity that I was talking about. But it's really gonna upend the ability of having a nice mobile experience in our application. So that is one of the big bets for 2026.
2026. Yeah, since you acquired, how many years was Ionic?
About 2 years ago.
Yeah. They were so advanced in terms of the technology. I believe at that time. I remember we tried Ionic in the past, and the experience is just native. No one can notice in general if we are in a browser shell or a really native application.
And that's where you want to be for certain types of, especially B2C applications. There's no way that you can, Cartão Continente, which is done with OutSystems, and it's great because, every time I go to Continente here, I use it, and it's a great experience. But you still have certain quirks, certain things that don't feel exactly the native part, and people react strongly to those. So it's very important, no pun intended with the React, it's really important that we are able to create these applications that feel native, really, and that's what the new mobile framework is going to bring.
Okay, so in this period in OutSystems, what you can mention as maybe one of the hardest moments, or I will say, like OutSystems need to reinvent itself. Which phase you remember as one of the phases that the company needed to change a little bit, or the way of working, or was or something that was more challenged for
OutSystems or for myself?
Maybe for you and for OutSystems both.
Okay, well, so I think for OutSystems, there were two very strongly defining moments. The first one was 2004, when the telecommunications, which were, telcos were big. It was like the 3G auction and and all of a sudden it all fell through. And OutSystems literally had no market. No one was doing mobile applications anymore. Telcos were down. So effectively, that pivot was hard. There was a moment in which OutSystems could have gone bankrupt and got out of business. And because we had those back offices in web, and Brisa, actually here in Portugal, decided that they wanted to do something. And Brisa has always been incredibly innovative in all kinds of technologies. They're still our customer today. And they decided, and that was what allowed us to jump from the telco world to the enterprise world. So that was really relevant and critical, and OutSystems could have gone bankrupt easily back then. The other very defining moment in OutSystems' life was when the cloud service providers appeared. And it was so obvious because OutSystems was born to live in the cloud, but because we were dealing with moving from perpetual to subscription, there was a lot of things happening. We kind of missed that window. And then all of a sudden, one day, Paulo came and said, okay, we need to do this.
We need to find a way.
In 3 months. It needs to be done right now. We assembled a Tiger team. Paulo Silva, who's also working still in OutSystems, one of the biggest dinosaurs there, even before me. He was the one that led that team. And in 3 months, we were able to take our product and run it in AWS completely in the cloud and sell it to customers in the cloud. And that was one of the biggest efforts that we've done, that I believe that if we had not done that effort in that way, we would have missed that buzz, and OutSystems would not be here too. So those, I think, were the two closest calls with destiny that OutSystems has had that forced really a great transformation inside of the company. For me, I think the most challenging moment that I had was probably 2016, 2017, when we assembled the customer success structure. I was responsible for kind of creating the practices and putting it together. I basically created the rules, the structures, the playbooks, and all of that for customer success. And all of a sudden, we realized that the problem with customer success was not only that we didn't have someone looking out for it, and now we have a great and healthy customer success organization led by Miguel Almeida, but it was also that the other departments, like finance or pre-sales or support, they were not fully connected to this mentality of customer success. And so I was trying to put something together. By doing that, I realized that there was no concerted effort around. And so we created something that was probably one of the funnest things that I've ever done. And I'm saying this is a hard moment, but it was a hard moment. The solution was great. We created something called Project X, led by Gonçalo Gaiolas. And Project X was responsible for taking the departments that had grown separately and creating like an internal business strategy consultancy agency inside of OutSystems that tackled all those problems that were less than 50% responsible from one department. So if a department is 50% responsible for a problem, they take it as their own, right? If I'm only responsible 20% and the other department is 20%, the other no one takes responsibility. And as the company grew, that was really one of the biggest problems. We were just crossing 150, 200 million, and things were falling through the cracks, and most importantly, the success of our customer were falling through the cracks. So one of the things that we did, for example, was focus on the time to value, which was from the moment the customer buys OutSystems to the moment their first project is in production. This is a very critical part of the life of a customer, because you're already paying for something that you have no value out of. So
we work too much time if I buy now and have 1 year later an app.
Yes, we were seeing that anything that took more than 9 months, interestingly enough, people started looking at the renewal and it's like, am I going to renew this software? Because it really doesn't make sense. I don't have anything in production. So we really had to work together as a company, right, to make this work. I'll give you 3 examples. One, sales had to immediately start thinking about what was the project the customer was going to build, so that the moment they buy, they would be ready to start doing that project. Because if we only did that after they bought, the time it took to set up the project, get the requirements, get the team ready, etc., that was not going to work. A second thing that was also really doing this or making this process bigger was the training, right? So the moment that whenever you sold a project, the team had to be already trained. The team had to already have hired whatever seniors, whatever partners, whatever they needed to get the project together, right? And so we came up on a framework that was, we called it platform ready. So they need to have their platform ready to go, team ready and project ready, which was just a way for us to communicate to sales, to pre-sales, to support, even to finance. Finance had to get through the process of provisioning the platform. Support had to get through the process of getting support. So in order to and we were able to actually slim down the median of projects to less than 6 months, 5 months and something. And that was really important because the churn of first year, it felt incredible, right? So all of a sudden, by having these projects live, we were able to have customers which then proceeded to expand, proceeded to get even more value out of the platform. So this was, I think, one of the hardest things I've ever done. This was one of the few times at OutSystems that I had no one reporting to me. So I was literally working by myself, trying to influence all these different departments.
It was harder because you needed to align
everybody, and it was
right?
by influence. Right? So it was not, I can tell them what to do. I need to say, hey, when the opportunity at 75% in the pipe, we need to start thinking about the project. Or whenever the opportunity is 90%, we need to start provisioning their platform already. And all those things meant changing these processes, but also communicated very clearly why we were doing it, what were the gains that we were doing. So that was one of the funnest stuff that I've ever done in OutSystems, but also some of the hardest ones.
Okay, and do you think that now this transition that is happening in the developing ecosystem about AI, how you think first about the community, how the developers is looking to this new phase about AI, and the second part, how the companies are looking also, because I think we are also now in one transition.
Yes, this is a huge transition.
Yeah,
yes.
Probably bigger than.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're through the transition always looks bigger than it is, right? As I said, we went through mobile, we went through cloud, we went through React. So, but this transition, I think it is bigger because it affects two very different vectors. Okay, let's leave one on the side and look at the one that is simpler, I think, to understand, which is developing applications that have AI in them and AI agents in them. So in that way, technologically, OutSystems is doing very much what they did for any of the other ones. So we're enabling OutSystems developers the same way they were able to build mobile applications, same way they were building to React applications. They're now able to build applications that include agents in them. So that is fairly simple, right? It takes 6 hours to do the training for you to understand the basics of grounding, prompting, memory.
I was talking, but I was just thinking that OutSystems probably is in a good position to help people to develop things into AI, because OutSystems already needed to help developers focus in the business.
Yes,
like it's one of the things that some barrier that sometimes happen is the traditional web developer or developer they don't want to put the code away. They want to be too much close to the code. But when they start thinking on bringing business value to the client, they understand better the value of technology.
Generically, low-code developers, in which OutSystems developers are a big part, they are much closer to the business. Again, OutSystems attracts those developers that are not driven by the code they produce.
Exactly.
They're driven by the value that they deliver. And so with AI, I think that's even better, right? So right now, especially with the abstraction that we're creating inside of Agent Workbench and all of the stuff that we're putting out, it's going to be very easy for an OutSystems developer to become an AI developer. I challenged all OutSystems developers to become AI developers till the end of the year, just because it's fairly easy. You go through it, you understand what is there, and the concepts are easy. They're visual, they're inside of the platform, they're connected, and you can try it immediately. We just launched in Halloween the Agents versus Zombies hackathon, which was a really fun way of practicing your AI capabilities. And so I think building applications with AI inside of them is going to be something that is easy to do, but it's going to have a very interesting learning curve to understand what it can do, right? So the process of building an agent, putting it inside of a platform, an application, is fairly straightforward. The process of looking at an application blueprint and saying, this functionality I can do with AI, that functionality I can do with AI, that is going to be the tricky part, I think. Because the technology is so open and it's so, the possibilities are so many that understanding what can and cannot be done, what works and will not work, is going to be the work of 2026.
Regarding that, we one thing that I think it helps really to solve that is to include that in the UX process. Like, and it's something that we are trying to do also, because if is in the development process that we are thinking in the AI, we are too late in the designing of the system. So bringing the AI to the first discussions with the business, when we are making the workshops, when we are trying to understand the pains, the functionalities, and doing that. But there is challenges here also, because the UX or the designers, they have less knowledge about
and I think it's going to have to be up to the developers also to propose. Because a lot of times, and by the way, this has been true for OutSystems forever, right? A lot of times people look at technology and they don't understand it. They don't understand what technology can do for them. I always tell this story. This was something that happened in an aeroportos a long time ago. So even before I went to the US, so probably 2004. And we were doing this requisition management system integrated with SAP. And I had this amazing user. Again, if I can give one piece of advice for OutSystems developers is make sure you talk to the people that are going to be using your applications. So I had this amazing user was this lady that knew the process, the airport processes in and out. And she was close to the retirement. So they told her to be our basically subject matter expert. Her name was Enriqueta, and Enriqueta kept coming to me and telling me all the things that the system needed to do. And one day we were doing a demo and she says, Miguel, this is looking great, but now the only thing that we need is in that page that has the requisition, we need the line for the administrator to sign. And I was like, okay, but he's just going to approve it. He's not going to actually sign it. No, but he needs to have the line so that he can sign it and that it can be. And I tried to talk her out of it for a little bit. And I said, okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't cost us anything. So I talked to the developers and I said, hey, we need to put a line on that page that says administrator signature in there. And so next demo, I showed it to her and say, hey, here's the requisition page, here's the line with the administrator signature. And she was very happy. She was like, okay, now it's perfect. It's really great. And then, of course, we finished development and she started testing. The moment she started testing, she came back to me very sheepishly and she said, okay, I think I understand what you mean now. No one's ever actually going to sign the page, so you can remove the line now. But that's the power of OutSystems. It's like it's so easy for us to do something the business wants.
Sometimes they need to see it.
They need to see it and be able to reach, because it's a big mentality shift. And the AI is going to be the same thing, right? We're going to have a hard time explaining to people that, if you upload your CV, it goes through an agent and it pre-fills your form, then you don't need to fill in the form anymore. So the page to fill in the form is not very relevant. All of that is part of the UX design and the way AI affects UX design, but it's also going to have to be explained to people that don't understand this process. And that is, I think, a very important part. And I think a lot of us are going to have in this process to put some line for the administrator's image in our UX.
And then realize that, okay.
So that they understand that it takes a little bit of time.
And about the businesses, how you see the business adopting this technology?
Well, I think there's a big gap here because computer science has always been very deterministic up to now, right? If you did an algorithm, you knew that it was going to behave the same exact way over and over again. And so there was some certainty about what you could do with it. And in certain places like airport management and flight management, you want it to happen that way. You cannot in any way, shape, or form have the
some
system
kind of random thing.
Hallucinate halfway through bringing down an airplane or something like that. So, or health systems or financial systems. So I think a lot of the AI applications are going to start on the fringes, on those things that you can either have a human in the loop validating, or in which a mistake is not life or death, and then it's going to make its way in towards more critical systems. And that's going to take a little bit of time because we still ourselves don't have it figured out. How do you test an agent properly? How do you know that because you changed something in the database, the data the agent's receiving is slightly different and it's going to change its impact? How do you detect that? So not just the process of creating agents, that's fairly easy and simple, but the process of testing it, one, and then evolving and making sure that that agent's behaving as you change the environment around it, that is going to be incredibly complex. And we are going to have mechanisms that we are already putting inside of OutSystems that are going to allow that life cycle, right? Generically, the whole AI process is still very experimental, and it's going to be up to the developers to try it. But there's some really powerful use cases in there that we cannot ignore.
completely. And I think there are use cases that we even cannot imagine. Like
Absolutely.
We find the simple ones, like the example of the CV and the transcripting or resuming or getting information. But there are so many
The reasoning part of it is something that fascinates me. I don't know if you saw the demo we did on one from Travel Lessons, in which you had three agents talking with each other and finding the best solution. I think that is like the place where things are going to get really complicated, but really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to have reasoning agents that are kind of talking to each other in order to get a better solution,
yeah,
that is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it can help solve difficult problems. Not just like the software until now is something that have some flow, and you input data and you get data, or a mix of both. With AI, I think the software is much more to solve more things and to automate. Automate, I think, is one of the things. One trend that we are seeing is even that the UI part of the system, it should reduce, because if everything gets more automated, if the agents will do part of the work, then the interface can be just a simple page just for a user to validate,
to review. Yes, exactly.
Instead of making everything.
And that is really going to make the difference. And that's what we want to put into Agent Workbench moving forward, right? So Agent Workbench is not done. We've launched it in one. We actually told our customers that if they use it to put an agent in production, they are able to keep Agent Workbench for the rest of the lifetime of their contract, which is really cool. We've actually announced in Miami that we are extending that, not just the end of the year, it's going to be in the end of January. So now people have a little bit more time to get their first agent in production. But Agent Workbench is going to continue to evolve exactly to not just have the part of the agent, but also have the interfaces that you need, right? A lot of it's going to be Forge components. So, for example, you can go to the Forge and download a chat that kind of overlays on top of your page immediately if you want to do a chat bot. You can download a summarization engine. I'm also challenging the OutSystems developers to put agents that they make in the Forge so that other people can have them. And as fast as possible, because we need to get that first agent to production till the end of January. So it's very important. So it's up to us to now go and create these use cases for our customers. And of course, this is all in ODC. So we've also removed all the friction in terms of any O11 customer can have the ODC license included in their contract. So there's no distinction there anymore. O11 and ODC are getting the unified platform. So all the integration with data, with users, and all of that is coming out. So there's a lot of really great things that were announced in one and in Miami that I think are really building the momentum for 2026. And the developers are going to be at the forefront of this, because they're going to be the ones that know what the use cases can be. They can be as simple, as I said, as taking a document, summarizing, extracting information. They could be chatbots. They could be something a little bit more complex as decision-making and understanding based on multiple types of data and guidelines what to do. But all of this is going to culminate in our customers running ODC side by side with O11 and deploying their agents in an experimental way so that they can start also learning how this process gets into their business.
All of that announcements in one, it was really great, and I felt that the vibe in general was very positive. From what you were saying, Miami was very similar now.
Yes, it was very similar.
The companies looking to the future in a positive way. I believe the new CEO also it came with a new with fresh air and bring some.
Yes, it's true. I mean, it's a little bit bittersweet, right? We all love Paulo. Paulo brought us all the way here, and it's amazing how a founder CEO was able to get all the way here. But yes, I think Woodson was able to bring in a fresh perspective. And a lot of these announcements that were done based on what he saw and the things he wanted to to change and evolve. Paulo is staying on as president of the board, so he's still very much involved in the day-to-day decisions, but he is much more on the strategy and product side. And Woodson is now understanding, how we can scale to get to 1B and how we reignite the growth and how we reignite, because AI is giving us an incredible opportunity here.
Completely.
Because it effectively is allowing us to be relevant in an area that is really hot right now. And even, as interesting as AI applications are, there's the second part, which I think is very relevant right now, which is using AI to build those applications. Yeah. So the integration of AI, we've been using AI at OutSystems platform, with the natural language query, with the next best node. There was already specific AI components inside of the OutSystems platform that accelerated stuff. But right now it's just the advent of vibe coding and all the natural language interactions. We did our first dabble with Mentor. And interestingly enough, people talked a lot about the application generation and creation. One of the most interesting features of Mentor for me is actually the quality assessment of applications that we have. But we're getting ready, as you saw probably in the demo of one, we're getting ready to launch a whole new conversational interface, not just for application generation, but also inside a studio, right? Yeah. So we are going to be able to ask Studio to do stuff, right? The same way you would used to do stuff and it would tell you where things need to be fixed or fix them automatically. You're going to be able to conversationally say, hey, let's add a new screen that does this and does that based on the style guides, based on everything, and put it all together for you inside a studio. And that is really going to be really powerful. What we see and that opportunity that we're looking at is, people like Lovable and they like Cursor and Replit, but those are really good at creating applications. And also creating millions of lines of code that no one understands, right? Yeah. And that, OutSystems has always been about speed of creation, yes, but most importantly, speed of change, speed of evolution, ease of maintenance. And those things are going to get incredibly harder once you use AI to create applications, because no one understands what's underneath and can either validate or evolve a lot of the stuff that is generated by these AI creators. And I think it's going to give us a big opportunity in 2026 as people start realizing that they're not able to maintain and evolve their lovable applications, that there's a need to create enterprise-ready applications that are not just quick to create, they're quick to evolve, quick to maintain. They are secure, their code patterns are understandable by humans, validatable by humans, they can be testable properly. And so all of these things is going to create what I call enterprise vibe coding, right? Which I think it's going to be, or enterprise vibe engineering even more than coding, because it's much more of a process of creating value. And I think that is going to create a big opportunity for us to be positioned at a place in which we're not generating million lines of code, we're generating visual representations that are a lot easier to understand, to maintain, to evolve, and even use AI to then manipulate those abstractions, which is a lot easier than evolving, millions of lines of code. So I think the opportunity is huge.
Yeah, that for me is really one of the big advantages of OutSystems now, because as you're saying, like we can in our days create a simple or ask other tools to generate some code, but it's code that I need to maintain. I don't have an easy way. A part of the interface, I can look to the interface, but then if the AI doesn't do what I want to do, I need to look to the code. So it's kind of a tricky, because some of that tools in the vibe coding is like a concept like everyone can vibe coding something, but they just can vibe coding and then get stuck at some point. And I think OutSystems give that flexibility, that ease of maintenance, that visual representation of the code that allow to simplify complexity.
Yes.
In the
And what we're seeing, I was telling you the story earlier. What we're seeing is that we're already getting enterprises that are limiting access to AI to their junior developers.
Yeah.
Right. I was talking to one of our MVPs, and they also have normal high code in they're part of a partner. They have high code practices, and what they are realizing is that. Junior developers that don't understand a lot of what they're generating are creating a significant amount of legacy immediately by creating algorithms that no one understands except the AI and not even themselves, that they cannot evolve. And so
in a velocity that
in a speed that is incredibly, is going to turn all high code developers into high code analysts and validators at some point, right? So they are actually reducing access to AI to the junior developers because you need people to, yes, you can use AI to accelerate and it's great, but you need to understand what is coming out.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure that it follows coding best practices, architectural best practices, patterns. It doesn't have security issues in there. And those are all things that are already embedded in OutSystems, right? Whenever you generate from our model, because it has much more limited scope, then whatever we generate are always secure queries, are always secure artifacts, are always scalable patterns of UI. And all of that, you cannot take it for granted because that is the difference between an enterprise system and an app that I put in Lovable and then I deploy to my personal edition.
Completely. You already mentioned some things about 2026. What you think will be the in OutSystems? I was already dividing this into questions again. In OutSystems, what you think is coming, like the new things that you might be able to share, and how you think also continue this trend of AI. I think companies are maybe just this question first.
Okay, well, I think we have a lot of things getting done at this point. Besides Agent Workbench, the next big launch we're going to have, and of course we have the mobile UI framework, but the next big launch we're going to have is, of course, the conversational mentor piece that I was talking about. And that is really going to be a big change in the way you build applications and an incredible speed up of the ability to change and evolve existing applications. So that is going to be great. And of course, the extra integration with O11 that is going to allow you to leverage everything that you're doing in O11 to use agents, to use all the other ODC capabilities too, right? Like the mobile interface.
They are already integrated, but there are some features that are still in the roadmap.
Yes. So we're going to integrate, of course, data, users. We're going to integrate logic too, so it's going to be fairly easy for you to call logic from one side to the other with a secure connection and all of that. And then we're going to start integrating the software development lifecycle too.
Okay.
So
the studio itself.
Not just the studio, but the ability for you from the ODC portal manage your O11 applications, deploy your O11 applications. If they have dependencies between them, make sure that they get published at the same time and in the same way. So there's a lot of work to be done to make it truly a unified platform. And of course, there's a couple of things that I'm not allowed to talk about, but I believe are really going to make a difference in the AI world in terms of agent testing, agent lifecycle, all those other problems that are going to appear in 2026. Because how it goes, right? And there's the big hype of inflated expectations. And I have a feeling that AI is slowly already coming down the other side, and people are going to start all the nefarious effects that AI is going to have, like this one I was telling you of generating large amounts of unmaintainable code. People are starting to realize that. So all of a sudden, it's going to be complex. So I was just reading this article about how ServiceNow agents can be easily hacked by telling them to do things that they are not supposed to do, but no one has put any constraints on them, right? So there's already a slew of things that as AI becomes more ubiquitous all around the technology world, we're going to start realizing that we need to talk about, right? Can we give agents all the information and rely on them to only give certain information to users? Can we give agents access to all these tools and then make sure they only use the tools in the right? So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be important to be taken care of in the software development lifecycle, in the testing of agents, in security, in access to data that are going to have to come up. And we're already looking at them because we know what it takes to do an enterprise application. And so we're already making sure that they are taken care of.
Yeah. I was thinking there is I imagine here two high peaks. Like there is the trend of the AI. Now then the companies need to get trust, need to understand how really to use in a strong way, in a security way. And I think companies are now using more and more and more, and this will accelerate. And as platforms, as OutSystems start having ways of testing, ways of controlling the predictability of the AI, more and more use cases it might appear.
Use cases and limitations too.
Exactly. Use cases and possibilities.
Possibilities of great stuff and possibilities of hacking and possibilities of failure. So all of this needs to be balanced in order to gain that trust, right? To go from the outside fringes of use cases all the way to the most critical use cases that we want to use AI.
Completely. And I think we are on time.
We are? Okay.
Thank you for being here.
It was great.
Conversation. It was amazing. And stay tuned. Look to OutSystems. The 2026 we'll have more announcements. And great to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.